welcome back to my channel. I'm so glad to have you back here, and if you're new here, welcome. I'm so happy to have you here. I hope you all are doing very well. Today we're going to be talking about what is a sense of true self and how that can help you to go from an E to an A star very quickly in a short amount of time and with no help at all. All you need is just yourself and your mindset. Are you your real self, or are you the self that you have built upon your current environment and your past environment? These are the type of questions that I ask myself quite a lot of the times, because I'm like, how do I really know that I am myself and not just people I've built around me? And all of this was kind of validated when I was reading this book called Psycho-Cybernetics. And my dad told me to read this, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm only on page 27 and it's been very good so far. So if you haven't read it yet, I do highly recommend that you do read it, because it has brought me a lot of ideas, including what I'm going to talk about today. The word self is such a big thing. It's so vague. You know what self means, but what does it really mean? You know the word self means me, or yourself, or themselves. Self. What is self? Self, in my opinion, is built up of a number of things. Self is built up of how you perceive yourself. Self is built up of how do other people perceive you? What do you see in the mirror? What do you hear when you're being silent? What do you hear when you're sat alone and there's a little voice in your head that's talking to you? Who is that, and what is it saying? Your sense of self is built so much with the things around you. If somebody says to me, you are smart, I will feel smart. If someone says to me, how could you not do that? You're so stupid, I will feel stupid. If someone says to me, wow, you're so beautiful, I will feel beautiful. But if someone says something bad to me, I'll feel really disheartened and really upset about it. My sense of self is constantly changing, and it's constantly changing because of what is happening around me and what people say about me. So how can this all relate with your grades? How does this all relate with academia? How can someone go from an E to an A star? By thinking about what their sense of self is. Now, the idea behind this is that your brain is able to change, or your brain is able to perceive things whether or not it's real. Your brain cannot tell between fake and real. For example, if you are watching a TV show, or you're reading a book, or even if you are playing with your VR headset or on a VR headset, sometimes you get so immersed in it that you don't even realize that it's not real, isn't it? Sometimes when I'm reading a book, I just get so immersed in it that I completely forget which world I'm in. I come out of it and I'm like, wait, Harry Potter isn't real? I'm not in Hogwarts? I question myself and my sanity a lot of the times when I'm reading, because I just get so immersed in it. And my brain doesn't understand that I'm in this fake world that I've created in my mind. And that's such a beautiful thing, because everybody has their own little world. Everybody has their own image of what they look like. They all have an image of what their surroundings look like. I may look outside the window and look at this tree that's currently growing, and I'm thinking like, wow, that's life growing out there. But then somebody else would look at the tree and they're like, what is going on with that tree? It's not even growing. It's been 2 years. What's going on with it? Is it dying? People have a different perception of what you see. The color red that I see may not be the same color red that you see. We all can see different colors because of the wavelengths that are reflected. And then our brain sees it as a factual thing. Our brain sees things factually. So when you tell it to look at something, even though it's not real, it thinks it's real. Our brain can only perceive colors, or can perceive what we see and feel, because of the senses around us. We are built up of neurons. We are built up of receptors that tells the brain what is going on. Our brain is purely the mastermind, but if the mastermind isn't told anything, then what is it gonna master? Whose mind is it gonna master? For example, if you have a puppeteer but no puppet, then they're not a puppeteer. So our brains without our nerves will not be a brain. And our nerves are built up of neurons. They're built up of sensory neurons, relay neurons, motor neurons. They're built up of receptors, synapses, things that work together in order to tell our brain a certain information, no matter how small or how big the information is. So who's to say that our brain can tell what's real or not? Now, yes, our brain is easily fooled, but your sense of self will always limit that. Now imagine this student just started with me. This student has a U and wants to get at least a C. They just want to pass. But I can see from the very beginning that this student has a very high drive. This student wants to do well. This student is interested in the subject. And I tell that student, I think you can get an A star. In fact, I know for a fact that you will get an A star. What's that student gonna think? In their mind, I know for a fact they're gonna be like, what's this girl even saying? She has too much hope for me. Why would I even believe her? Maybe this student would even show me all of their past results and be like, I don't think so. Because look at this. I got a 0 here. I got a 2 here. I got a 3 here. The highest I ever got was a 10. But that's completely fine because my highest grade was a 9 out of 100. And in the end of it, I still got 91%. And I'm currently doing my master's in chemical engineering with an average of 85%. So who's to say that it can't happen to you? Yes, I understand that your past experiences have shown you that it is not possible. But that's the thing about self. It is perceived, it is built upon things that you've seen in the past. But what's to say that your future won't change? What's to say that your sense of self will not change in the future? When in fact, your sense of self is changing this second right now. You listening to me talking about this, I am 100% sure you are thinking about what your sense of self is. What part of your life was built upon a certain experience? Who told you that you couldn't do this? Who told you that you could do this? And when that happened, did you tell that person that you couldn't do it? When I was getting bad grades, every time a person would tell me that I can't do it, I would believe them because the results have shown me that it's correct. I can't do it. I can't do science. I can't get good grades. I can't study. That is what the results have shown me. And we are all, and in the core of us, very scientific. We all love to see proof. When we see the proof of something, that's what we believe in. So if the world, or what you perceive as the world, constantly shows you that you are getting bad grades, then you're of course going to believe that you can't do it, that you are stupid. But what if one day your grades suddenly go from an E to a C? And this is only like within 2 weeks of studying. Just putting in a bit of effort, and then your grades go from an E to a C. Then you're gonna think immediately, wait a second, I only put like an hour of studying a day, and I already jumped from an E to a C. So that means if I put in the same amount of effort, I can go from a C to an A star with twice the amount of time, let's say. Or if I put in more effort, then in the same time frame, I can go from a C to an A star. Everything is possible. Who says that it's not possible? In the book, the author was talking about a surgeon, and I think the author was a surgeon. That's what I gathered from it, at least. So this surgeon was deemed to have this magic scalpel, because whenever they do plastic surgery on a person and change the appearance of a person, this person's life would change dramatically. So people would say, oh, it's because they went through plastic surgery, and that's why they have this completely new life where they have so many new opportunities. All of them are so good and their life changed 180 degrees. They have this perfect life now. All of it is because of this plastic surgery. But then the surgeon also went through some other people who were like, you changed my nose, you changed my ears, but nothing happened in my life. Why is everything the same? Even if somebody says to them, oh my God, your nose looks so beautiful. You look so different. You're so beautiful. This person would still be like, no, I don't see it. My nose looks exactly the same. Think about phantom limbs. People who have had their limbs amputated, often they feel what's called as a phantom limb, where they still feel pain where the limb was, even though the limb has already been amputated. All of this is about what you perceive in yourself. And like I said before, your brain doesn't know what's real and what's fake. And that's the idea behind a phantom limb. How can the limb not be there anymore and yet the body still feel as if it was still there? How can the body feel the pain that would have been there when it's not actually there? All of this is because of the receptors, the senses that are in our body itself. Our neurons are telling our brain that there is a limb there when in reality there isn't. So fake and real, they are so intertwined with each other. Now, I'm not going to say that this is an easy process. This is a difficult process, and I've been through it. Going from an E to an A star took a lot of hard work, mindfully. I spent a lot of time thinking about this by myself in the past. I spent a lot of time when I was an E student thinking about why I was dumber than everybody else. Why I couldn't do it, why I was getting an E while some other people in my class were able to understand immediately and can easily get an A star even with their eyes closed. It made me feel like I was just less than everybody. But then one day I was studying and I realized that's not true at all. If they can do it, why can't I? Like, what is stopping me from actually learning? I figured out that when I was doing all of my studying sessions, I didn't actually study properly. All I did was just read notes, but none of it went into my mind. So I then understood that, okay, what people have told me to do in my studies wasn't actually working. Or, in fact, it's more like what I thought people were doing to study isn't working for me. So I changed my environment. I changed the way I study, who I study with, where I studied, what the ambience of my room would look like when I study, what kind of music I listen to when I study. I changed all of that. I completely rebranded myself. And within a week itself, I saw my grades jump. I went from an E to a C within a week. And then from a C to an A star, that took a lot of time because then I started to doubt myself again. But once I stopped doubting myself, that's when I went from a C to an A star. And it went really quickly. I was hitting consistent A stars in every single past paper that I do. And then in the exam, I got an A star. So this is what you can do if you want to perceive yourself in a different way. I'm talking about this academically, which I presume you can still apply with other cases as well. But this is predominantly for academia. So one of the ways that you can change yourself is to recognize that what you are doing wrong is wrong. But figure out why that is wrong. Is it wrong because it doesn't serve you? Is your revision technique not for you? Or is it wrong because you are completely doing a completely wrong method of calculating, for example? Figure out what is wrong. Figuring this out sounds super easy when I say it out loud, but I know it took a lot of tries. And unfortunately, there's no way for me to help you with this unless you do it yourself. You have to figure it out yourself. You have to know what it is that you are doing wrong. And the way to do it, at least how I did it, was to test out every single thing. I spent a whole month testing out different revision techniques, seeing what worked for me. I also started to be more mindful when I'm studying. I realized that when I'm doing any studying with pictures, I started to understand it better because I can imagine it in my head. I'm very imaginative as a person. When I read a book, I can see the images in my head. So when I'm reading my textbooks seem so boring to me. But if there's pictures on the textbooks, then I'm like, oh yeah, I get what you're saying. So I would look at YouTube videos that had a lot of animations, like Amoeba Sisters for biology, for example. Chris Gazat was really helpful for me as well. I love learning things with a lot of animations on it. And then after that, I also figured out that I could not study for a long period of time. I could not sit still for a long period of time without breaks. But if I didn't have a set time that I would have a break, then I would just have like a 2-hour break and then not go back to studying and then just continuing the next day basically. So then I started to do Pomodoro technique. So things like that, just trying out different techniques that you can use, figuring out what actually works best for you, that will be super helpful for you in the long run. After that, changing your self-belief is important. Remember, I keep saying before that your brain doesn't know what's real and what's fake. So instead of you trying to manifest or trying to imagine your A-star grade, imagine yourself or manifest the person that you are to achieve this A-star grade. If you think you are not worthy of this A-star, if you think you are not worthy of this good thing in your life, just imagine that you are. Take that thing off of a pedestal. Nothing is too unworthy for you to achieve. Everything is achievable in this life. And again, your brain can't tell the difference anyways. So like, just pretend like it's easy to achieve. I know that's so much easier to say than do, but you have to be conscious about all of this. Whenever you start to think, it's kind of like, you know, in the movies where you have the devil and the angel on your shoulders, one's telling you good things, one's telling you bad things. It's something like that, because whenever I think of something that I want, but I feel I am not worthy of it, there's always that thing in the back of my mind that's telling me that, why would you think you can do this? Like, you can't do that. That's not achievable. Look at this person. I always try to find ways to prove to myself or validate this thing in me where I'm like, yeah, I'm right. I can't do this. I try to feed into this personality or like sense of self that I believe myself to have. So if I were to say, let's say, I can make £100,000 in a month, then my brain would think, That's not possible. Who are you to say you can do that? Like, you don't even have a job. How are you gonna make £100,000 in a month? And then after that, my brain's gonna say, look at that person. They've been working so hard. They haven't made £100,000. Why would you make £100,000 and you have nothing? So it's things like that where it's like, in the back of my mind, there's always questions. I always question what I'm thinking. I'm always like, why do you think that's possible? There's this pessimism in my mind. But you have to be conscious about it. You have to be conscious that whenever you hear that in your head, tell them no. Just be like, nah, I'm not gonna listen to you. You're nothing. I don't believe in what you're trying to tell me. If you say I can't make £100,000 in a month, fine, I'll make £200,000 in a month. Prove you wrong. I can do it. I can do it twice. Why not? And then lastly, instead of trying to manifest the person that would get this A star, that would get a first class in their university degree, that would make £1 million in a year, that would have this multi-million business, instead of manifesting yourself to become this person immediately, you should manifest yourself or think about yourself as the person that would have the habits to have these. Instead of you manifesting your A-star grades, manifest or think about yourself as the person that would study or find the perfect revision technique or understand the subjects or the topics very, very easily so that you can get an A-star without doing too much. Think about yourself as this person, the person you want to become, how you live your life, what do you do every single day to get this? And all of this is actually talking about discipline. If you're disciplined, you're changing your way of life because you want your life to become more disciplined, more organized. So who are you? What type of person will you be when you are this A-star student? What type of life will you lead when you are rich? What type of person you will become when you are smart, when you are called a genius, when everybody says to you and they say, wow, you are a genius. How do you feel at that point in time? Pause this video if you want. Just sit and think and feel what it would feel like when somebody says that to you. When somebody says you are a genius. I can't believe you got that A star. What did you do? What would your response be? If somebody said to you, how did you go from an E to an A star within 2 weeks? What will your response be? Imagine you are that person. What would your response be? That response is what you need to do. You already know exactly what you need to do. You don't need anyone to lead you to where you need to be. You may need a few pushes, you may need a few guidance here and there, but the answer is already in you. You know exactly what to do. So trust in yourself and trust the process. It's so important to trust the process. If you were to tell me that I will be here right now with 100,000 followers on TikTok, I would not believe you. Especially considering I was an E student and now I talk about how to get study motivation and how to do well in studying. That, if you were to tell me this in the past, I'd be like, what are you even on about? But it is my reality now. I don't know how I got here, but I trusted the process and here I am. So if I can do it, you guys definitely can too. But yeah, aside from that, thank you so much for watching this video, you guys. I will see you guys in next week's video. Bye!